Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. We hype forward all the time, right? So this is the second time we will start looking backwards on the hype. And, you know, you do this once, and then all of a sudden, one or two other videos pop up very similarly shortly afterwards. And, you know, once you do one or two of these videos and they actually get some view counts, you know, other people want to copy and do the same thing. But imitated, but never duplicated, Ignite, right? Yep, okay, good. We'll maybe have Ignite do a little bit of ranting and raving here in the middle too, but let's look back now on March 2021. Since we are in March 2022, what were the big campaigns in March 2021? Where are they now? And how do I feel about them now comparatively? Have they delivered? Where are they at in terms of production? Or just, you know, how have they turned out? You know, has it kind of been one of these? Has it been one of these? Or has it been one of these? Because there's a bunch of interesting names we got to talk about, so let's do it. So as always, like, comment, subscribe, algorithm, click, comment. This is going to be talking about not only just ones that I'm interested in. Like, with all of these, I cover stuff that I was interested in, but I also cover just the big stuff that went on. And so this is what we're going to be talking about. And obviously, this was one of the biggest that happened in March of 2021, right? The sequel, the long-anticipated sequel in the Norse pantheon of mythic battles. We are getting Ragnarok instead of Olympus and all of the Greek gods now. And the interesting comparison was, again, with several of these games, is do you need both? And the honest answer is no, you don't need both. And so you saw a lot of people say, I'm getting one or the other, especially people coming in at the first point, or just like what I've said with plenty of other Kickstarter crowdfunding campaigns, this core pledge is way more than you ever need. Like, I have the boxes back here on the ground. I mean, we're talking like 2 Gloomhaven-sized boxes for just the core pledge. So it has been an insane deal, and I shouldn't have gotten any of this. I shouldn't have gotten it. I have not played like my Mythic battles hardly at all, and I got the second core pledge. This is timely because basically within under a week at the time of filming this, this pledge manager is closing, and I have to decide how many of these add-ons I'm going to get. Now, this raised $2.4 million. At the time, my hype level was probably like a 7.5, maybe 8. I'll be completely transparent with you guys. My hype level right now is kind of like a 6. And I was totally, you know, all in on some of these other, I mean, look at all this stretch goals. This is just amazing. Like, tons of stuff. I don't really know if I want to buy any more. I don't really know if I want to waste any more of my money tied up into this game. And I say waste because it's just not hitting the table enough, right? That's really how I look at it. I would love Ymir. I would love him. Asgard, love him. Because, you know, for some reason you decided not to put Odin or the Valkyries in the actual core game. I mean, freaking Odin, Ignite. Can you believe that? You don't put the father of the whole pantheon. Can you imagine them not putting Zeus or I was going to say, or Hera. But no, they didn't put Hera in. Hera got her own expansion for Greece. Anyway, but that's the sort of thing that I'm going, why? Why not? Ragnar Saga, be a lot of people like that. I wasn't a big fan. But it's the Children of Loki ones that I was seriously looking at. But it's $20 per. $20 for a Titan-sized one where you're only losing like one of these per game. And it limits what other ones you can have even on that side. But like Nighthawk and Surt, I mean, they just look amazing. Especially Surt and Jormungand. Nighthawk I could do without. The other two are freaking fantastic. And then the other question is, you have sleeves. The card backs don't match. So you're going to automatically know what cards you're going to be coming up with in terms of the Greek or the Norse. And so unless you're sleeved, it's going to be a little getaway. And is that a big deal or not? But the sleeves are expensive. Again, they're $4 for a pack of sleeves, and you need like, I don't know, something like 600 packs of them. So you know what I'm saying, though. And so for a game I haven't been able to get to the table hardly at all, I'm awful reluctant to do this because I also didn't think the rules were as concise and straightforward as I would have liked. Now, I'm not saying they're bad, but they weren't as good either as I would have liked. They're probably a solid B-. You know, right? They're not great. They're not horrible. They're good. Goodish. So how do you feel about this now? Again, like, I love the idea of this type of game. But with the core that I have already, and I practically have the all-in from Pantheon in the first place, minus like a few trinkets, majority of it's still in shrink. So I can't be any more hyped than a 6 at this point. As much as Titan versus God, 1 versus 1 versus 1, absorption by the rank of Pantheon, all that fun stuff. So again, preview, preview, something, preview, review-ish, and unboxing. So 3 of the 4 videos at least are like not even actual content, which again goes into the video that I did earlier in the week talking about the fact that the preview videos are, and influencer marketing is on the rise as opposed to serious opinion. So that's first up, Mythic Battles Ragnarok. Now, where is that? Like I said, Pledge Manager is literally just closing up soon. So if you're actually interested in this, again, it's a great game. It's a fantastic game. But can you get it played? It's because it's basically a one-on-one skirmish game. So there you go. You know what's funny? Video game IP right here. Stellaris Infinite Legacy. The whole big 4X Eclipse, come in, jump out, you know, pack it up. It's easy to get to the table. It's going to be amazing. It's based on the IP itself. And it raised more money than Mythic Battles Ragnarok, which is insane to me to think about that for a second. I didn't even realize that until I looked back at this. At first, I thought it sounded good. And then I realized that I'm never going to get this game to the table. This was a big turning point for me for games like this that I just said, you know what, this, Voidfall, Fractal, I'm never going to get to the table. And it's going to be hard for me to even consider remotely paying this much money for them. And Academy Games kind of had a weird approach. Their approach was, we're going to have Bauer's Corner do a hype video for it. And that's going to be the only video on the page. We're not going to have a rule book. We're not going to have anything else at the time of launch. We're not going to have any gameplay. And we're still going to do this. And it raised like over $1 million in the first day. And since then, it really hasn't been a ton better. The last 2 updates are very peculiar, to say the least. And when I say the last 2 updates, I mean the last 2 updates, one was in October and one was in January. My hype level when this ended was like a 2. My hype level now is still probably like a 2, because if you think you're going to get this game, let's see, when were they actually? April 2022. If you, well, I've got some news for you. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. I'm Bad News Board Game Barrett. Anyway, if you get that WWE reference, you can let me know in the comment section. Apart from that, here's the October update. This is the project progress, the graph detailing where things are at right here. So they don't have any of the gameplay stuff done. This is all gameplay stuff right here, right? And this is, you know, everything from design to layout to, let's see, turn my head here, pre-production, production. So, I mean, nothing is even close to production even at this point. So that's slightly concerning, I think. Or they say a ship customization's been completed. So this is the bigger picture one. Again, pre-production, you would be hoping to be at pre-production right now, because production's going to take a couple months. Shipping's going to take a couple months. So if you're lucky, you're looking at probably a year late with this project, which I guess isn't horrible, but okay. Displayed over here at Origins. And the rulebook, this is probably the more concerning thing to me, is this project is a year out, folks. A year. 1 freaking year, Ignite. And look where the rulebook is at. And this is October, mind you. This is literally about 6 months ago. Because there's only been 1 update in the last 6 months since this. And I'll be frank with you guys, when you go to the next update, it's not very much more encouraging from the rulebook standpoint. Demo, tabletop simulator, sure. Expansion, you know, again, expansion's going to hold it up too. Miniatures, again, miniatures are going to hold this up even further if those aren't taken care of. So not very encouraging. Now, if you go to the next update, you see they don't even have like a physical prototype. So they're trying to make a physical prototype, make sure it feels good in the physical realm of things. And so they're doing map tiles here where they're printing and pasting them on. So take that for what you will. The other components here, they're trying to do that. Going through the starting rules, and they're going to do 2 different rule books, you know, a starter and a everything rule book, essentially. Future updates. Well, I mean, it's been 2 months now since the last update. So, are you going to get a game? Well, yeah, probably eventually. I'm not really concerned about your fact you're going to get a game, but what is that game going to look like? Is it going to have it? And I guess the question for a game like this that was really brought up in the crowdfunding campaign in the first place was, why would I play this over the video game? The answer is, for me, nope, pass. Thank you, come again. But that's where Stellaris Infinity Legacy is right now. We'll go to GameFound here. Portal Games is Robinson Crusoe, the collector's edition. The edition that put a whole bunch of plastic with this scenario-driven survival, mainly, not everybody, but mainly I feel like is driven by solo players, at least in the community that are the most vocal about it. And they went ahead and they ran a whole new campaign with a whole new book and a whole new scenario book and a whole new plastic and a whole new everything. And again, they raised actually more money than either of the previous 2 campaigns that I just mentioned. Amazing. And this as a game, I mean, again, the pedigree, no one's arguing the pedigree here. But I think the point was, for 115 euros, you're getting models of things, again, which is weird. So this is a game where I feel like if you're a heavy dungeon crawl, if you're a heavy plastic miniatures, like other aspects, whatever they may be, that crowd and the crowd that plays typically like a game like this, I don't feel like there's a huge overlap. Now, again, most of you, or some of you in the comment section, are going to be the exception rather than the rule. But in general speak, I don't see as much overlap because they tend to be 1 to 2 player games, and these other ones, heavy miniature, heavy plastic based, tend to be, 2, 3, 4. And just interest, more Euro resource management, that aspect versus dice chucking. And that crowd is always also the crowd, in general speak, that harps on miniatures being a waste of time, space, money, and plastic, and the environment and everything else, blah, 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 blah. And now you're paying 115 euros for those. Now, again, you're getting a bunch of other stuff, gameplay-wise as well, which was slightly irritating that you're, getting a little bit of gameplay content pledge locked, but it is what it is. The Book of Adventures was the big one, where something like 54 scenarios or something. Again, very akin in my video of whether or not you should back this. I said that it was akin to having all of the expansion stretch goals for a CMON game, because you're never going to play through them all. You have them for just in case I really do play it that many times. But, I mean, most people aren't going to play it that many times, even this game. So that's okay. But again, the comparison was apparently, rules for thee except for me, sort of thing, if you will. Again, I don't think anyone says that the game is, worried about what it's going to be or if it's going to be bad. Or, I mean, it's just adding a whole bunch of more stuff. And this is stuff that, from a deluxeification standpoint, wouldn't show up at retail in the first place, wouldn't be affordable. If you don't need it, you don't need it. And there's plenty of gameplay stuff that you can get here too. But again, I mean, the all-in pledge for everything here, for one game, again, is 305 euros. That's not insignificant. That's pretty freaking significant, actually. I mean, that's a line with other dungeon crawlers of heavy plastic ilk. So again, the comparison has to be made there. So, I mean, pre-campaign, again, this is a game not in my wheelhouse, not of any interest to me. Pre-campaign, I was probably like a 4, and I'm not any different now. I mean, again, I have nothing against it, but it's just clearly not for me as well. Now, the most recent update, less than a month ago, says that they have the pre-production copy, essentially. They've got the sample, they're going through things. Chinese New Year is passed, and they'll have some more stuff out soon. So that's encouraging. That's actually encouraging. What's not encouraging is this was supposed to be delivered in January of 2022, I believe. So take that for what you will. Now, again, this one will probably be 6 months from now, is my guess. Which, again, 6 months, Kickstarter, GameFound, take that for what it is. That's pretty much the average nowadays. So I always look at the timing of when it's supposed to be delivered and basically put an additional 3 to 6 months on it. And I'm also one of those people, though, frankly speaking, I just back it and forget. I just don't even care. I just don't even care. I read some of the updates. I really only care about the updates that tell me when the pledge manager is closing, and then I forget about it. So there you go. That is Robinson Crusoe. Next up, we have Everdell, the complete collection. And this was another interesting test. And I didn't actually do it this way. I swear I did not plan it this way. I opened these as tabs, and they have gone sequentially pretty much in funding for this month so far. I'll tell you, the last 2 are going to throw that out of order. So that's how you can tell I didn't plan this next one after this. But this was 2 new expansions for Everdell and a complete collection of everything. And what was interesting about this was it raised $4.8 million, and you saw people selling their previous copies to buy this copy because the deal was actually much better to get everything here than to piecemeal it previously for $200. Because each of these boxes or expansions with the collector's edition or collector's upgrade previously was something like $75 or $65 or something along those lines. So I mean, you're talking easily like more than $200 just from like the first 3 expansions plus the base game. And now to get that plus 2 more plus the wooden tree plus the content from the upgrade packs and the storage solution, all for $200. People were like chomping at the bit, drooling, trying to get in on this, trying to sell their copies. It was very interesting. On Reddit, on Facebook, on Board Game Geek, people were trying to sell their sets of things for like $120 or $130, I remember. And it was a good time to get in if you didn't really have any care for this new stuff. Pre-hype, again, like, I understand Everdell. Everdell is a game that's staying in my collection right now with the expansions because I know that it's a solid game. At the same time, I as a whole don't get worker placement played a lot, so it needs to be something really special, and I'm not sure if it's really special for us yet. I haven't had a chance to experience all the expansions, so I can't say whether or not it's going to be. But, you know, the only other significant worker placement in my collection is Dune Imperium, and because that was an absolute standout, wow, I can't wait to play this game again. And that didn't need any expansions to do that. And so is this going to change my opinion when I do an expansion or do a couple expansions? I don't know. So it was supposed to be backed, or it was supposed to be delivering basically right now. So let's see where it was. My campaign hype was probably a 5. It's probably about the same. This is one where, you know, eventually maybe it's worth picking up on the secondary market, you know, if I really, really, really love it. Otherwise, you know, I could easily miss it too. Now, the last update from the very beginning of this month, it doesn't really have a whole lot of actual info. Chinese New Year is coming to an end. Factories are making moves, and that doesn't really tell you anything. It's easier to give a fulfillment estimation as production comes to a close. So I'm assuming that means that they're in the midst of production. Take that for what you will again. Logistics, obviously, blah, 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 blah. And so, you know, I have to look at this and say production's not done yet, and logistics are a mess. So I'd say you're talking end of quarter 3, early quarter 4 at the earliest from that standpoint. Again, you know, add 6 months. Add 6 months to 8 months onto the project. No surprise there. Take that for what you will. And some people in the comment section are very, very much not happy with that, which is very interesting because Stellaris you should be really unhappy with, but this one seems to be getting irate people because Kickstarter comments are always full of people that are fun to be around. We'll just put it that way. Anyway, there you go, Everdell. Next up, So You've Been Eaten. See, I told you they weren't in any specific order. This is still 8,500 backers, but 354,000 because it wasn't like a 350 euro pledge that you needed to get here. This is basically a solo game or a 1 versus 1 or a 1 versus 0 or a 0-person game. Again, look at the page if you don't believe me. $29, $39. What are we talking in terms of production here? October 2021. Again, I like the idea of this. I'm not a solo gamer though. So once I got more of the details, or a 1 versus 1 game, I understood the promise. I understood the concept of it. I looked at it. I watched some gameplay and I said, no, thank you. See, here you go. 2 players, 1 player, 1 player, 0 players. You can play AI versus AI essentially. Again, very interesting concept, very unique, very different. But I also was not the target audience, and a lot of solo players, I think, really went in on this. This is one of the first big ones of solo gaming last year, and I think, again, that's another trend that we're going to see a lot more of. Long story short, on the latest update from, I think, the end of February, I think this was when this was, right? Beginning of February, was that production was complete. So you're talking a month ago, but they literally didn't have any space fulfillment-wise. So they were saying that the pledge manager is going to be closing anytime. Addresses are pretty much locked, they said. Shipping costs, add-ons are imminent right there, and make sure you have everything added that you still need. So again, be aware that there's going to be another update when things are close to shore or they've arrived at fulfillment. So clearly that hasn't happened yet. It was supposed to deliver in October. Again, we're at about 6 months right now. It's probably going to be another month or so plus before they deliver. So again, 6 to 8 months, just like I said with the other ones. I am Liege today. Ignite, shut up. I see you eyeing that over there, and you give me that smirk. It's not helpful. Your sass is not appreciated. So that's how So You've Been Eaten. So again, like, it's another 5-5 for me. Like, the hype was, you know, understandable, but it definitely wasn't a game for me, so it didn't do anything for me either. But I think people are gonna be very happy with it. So if anything, you could say it's slightly up hype wise when people are actually gonna get it, because I think this game is gonna be very well received when people are playing it. Next up, we have Super Fantasy Brawl Round 2, one of Mythic's outstanding, like, I don't know, like, what do they have, like a half a dozen games? They're turning into CMON 2.0. So this is the second round, the second edition, the second come around of more characters for their Super Fantasy Brawl base game. And, you know, it raised just over $500,000. This is a game where I looked at as the second time around and I said, am I going to like this game? But it was more objective driven. And I'm not very good at objective-driven games when it comes to this style of things. And like I mentioned before, I have Mythic Battles Pantheon, so I don't really need anything else. I don't have room for anything else. And when it's something so similar, it's a one or the other. I'm not in this to collect. So I think it looks cool. I think I'd probably enjoy myself playing it, but I wasn't going to pay, you know, whatever this whole thing was, 170 bucks to get it all. And I'm not sure if this is standalone right here either with round 2. I don't think it was. So you'd have to basically get this and maybe some of that. So again, over $100, $150, including shipping probably. No, no thank you. So where are we at in terms of Mythic's every Wednesday update? Shipping update. Here we go. That's good. Batch 1 orders are going to be shipping out this week, essentially to the EU and the rest of the world. That's good. That's good, good, good. And these updates really don't have a whole lot of other information. They really do like short and brief and sweet, and sometimes there's stuff there and sometimes there's stuff isn't. But when was the actual delivery date for this? Again, 6 months ago. So I would imagine that that means people usually in EU and the rest of the world are getting it before the US lately. So I would imagine if we go back here and we see, yep, containers are in the EU, 2 containers are bound for North America, have yet to come, are still on the way. So, yep, makes sense. So interesting to see how people feel about this and how it's received. Again, I have to say it's probably, hopefully, an improvement from the first one. So again, it's like a 5 to a 6 maybe in terms of hype. Next up, we're going to talk about Doomlings, another one that flew under the radar that was sort of more exploding kittens-esque, but actually caught my eye because I think it has a little bit more than that. As you're getting these little Doomlings and can modify them and create their own characteristics and traits and all that fun stuff. 10,000 people, $653,000. And again, sort of like Exploding Kittens, where there are a bunch of pledge levels, right? Like the early bird, the classic, the black box, the gold edition, all of that fun stuff. And again, sort of very similarly aesthetic-wise. And it was supposed to be arriving in December 2021. However, it has just been pretty much shipped out a year later, and pretty much everyone has it right here. So, logistics update, 85% of all the pre-orders have been shipped out. If you're an international backer, you're waiting, you can still get it. But otherwise, I think it seems like everybody has them. And if you actually go back and further in the updates, it looks like they got it pretty much on time in December. So that's really good, actually. So, which reminds me, I actually think I was in contact with them when I first saw this, and they said they'd send me a copy on fulfillment. So I should probably close the loop with them and see if they're still willing to do so. It looks just enough in terms of, you know, like fillerish in a good way that I think it would work pretty well. And I haven't really seen any talk about it though lately, so I'm definitely going to be looking into this. So my hype was probably like 5 or 6 initially, and it's probably like a solid 7 right now. So there you go, Doomlings. Next up, we have Caper Europe. This one from Keymaster Games, a follow-up from Keymaster from the original Caper. This was, let's see, September 2021, and I think people have just been getting it in like the last month and a half. And it has blown expectations out of the water, I think. The Dice Tower review basically gave it like a 9 or a 10, and seems to be getting glowing praise across the board. I should have backed this. This is probably one of the few games that I look at and I go, I should have got in on this, and I just didn't. It was right as I was starting to transition into more 2-player games, and I should have. You know, fulfillment is totally done, as they say right here. And you can get, you know, a little bit of, you know, whatever, pick up a copy today at retail. So, 2-player, you're doing these capers, planning out capers, one versus the other, whoever can pull off the most heists within the time frame. Again, it just looks like a very solid game, and there was nothing wrong with it from the get-go. And it didn't get like a ton of money. I mean, $242,000 is nothing to sneeze at, but comparatively to the other stuff in this list, yeah. But it's blowing expectations out of the water. It's probably going to be on people's lists for best game of 2022. I'm going to put that out there right now, not even having played it, but just the reception, the idea of it, and what I've seen so far just personally. So pre, it was probably a 7. Post, it's probably a 9 for me. It's probably a 9 at this point in terms of I actively want this game. I actually want to pick up a copy. Now, do I need the, you know, the Kickstarter edition, whatever the Mastermind is with the sleeves and premium box? Okay, no, it looks like it's all, maybe, you know what, that was the main reason I didn't do it, I think, is because it's like metal coins, playing cards, playmat, and whatever the other stuff was, you know, sleeves. So actually, you know what? I might just pick that straight up at retail edition then. So there you go. Caper Europe. Now we're going to talk about another one that just recently delivered. Meeples Monsters is actively being delivered from Alderac. Again, I looked at this one and I said, I want to try it before I buy it. I thought the pledges were a good deal. They only had the $49 pledge. You get the free mini expansion and all the upgrades. but it looked like from a worker placement a little bit lighter than Lords of Waterdeep because your workers weren't even staying on the board when other people were putting them down. Like you put all of your workers down, then you pulled all your workers off. So that was very interesting, and I just needed to have some hands-on first. So I've messaged a few people that have gotten it. I'm going to try and trade for it at some point because I think it looks light enough that it'd be fun to play, but I don't know if I'm going to end up with it anytime soon. But I would imagine that as people are getting it right now, people are not going to like it. People are going to have it be too light or, you know, whatever. And so a bunch will also end up in the trading market eventually just by the sheer nature of, you know, 4,000 people getting it. So, again, March 2022, that one's actually right on time. So that's actually impressive. And again, I'd say it's probably, you know, 6.5, 7-ish, pre and now 6.5, 7-ish in terms of hype of how I feel about it until I would actually get to play some hands-on. So, Meeples and Monsters. And then last up, we're going to talk my dark horse of March last year, Rise of the Gnomes. I have no clue whether or not this is good or not. $51,000, 600 people. It reminded me of Spirit Island a little bit with the different races and the different difficulties and the changing rounds and the maneuvering and the dragon out there and, you know, crafting beer and transporting it around. But it looked too heavy for me. And I was happy to see it funded. It reached a couple goals. And the second most recent update here, back just under a month ago, says the ships are leaving from China. And so you can check out where it is here. So North America here for me. And again, it appears to be arriving about in a week. So, you know, I'd imagine in about a month, 5 weeks from now, you'll probably have your game if you're one of those 600 people. Which, again, what did they say originally for this? December? You know what? Again, it's going to be 4 or 5 months over. Do you need 37 different player races and add-ons for a 6th player in a game that I would be a little bit cautious about even playing with 4 people? When you've got this many rulebooks in terms of new player guide, competitive, cutthroat, cooperative, solo, and then rules references and a desert expansion rulebook, and as well as different rules for additional races. Hence, I said it might have been a little bit too heavy for me. But it's going to be interesting. I want to see what people think of this because, again, this one was my dark horse. I was probably a 6.5. I'm probably a cautious 6.5 still. But depending on how long the playtime is and what it looks like, I could see myself at some point even trying to consider this one as well, even though I'm a little trepidatious at the same time. That's your vocabulary word of the day, trepidatious. Okay, so that's it. That is the look back at March 2021. Some interesting stuff out there, and each of these months is just going to get more and more interesting because I think actually as 2021 went along, it actually kind of sped up with some bigger projects, especially when we start to get into like Q3. So I'm excited to look back at these because frankly speaking, I don't look at these like routinely before doing this video, so I have no clue where most of these are, and you're getting pretty much my first reactions to them when I do this video. So, because you know me, I'm pretty much off the cuff most of the time in my videos. For better and for worse. Seriously, Ignite, you know that by now. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy. Have a great day. Do something fun. Play a game. Or just chill. See you around.